Most people think summer is the easiest time to grow vegetables. The sun is out, the soil is warm, everything should be thriving. And then July arrives and half the garden quietly gives up. Lettuce bolts overnight, spinach turns bitter and shoots to seed, broccoli is long finished, even some tomatoes stop setting fruit when the heat gets serious. What most gardening advice never tells you is that summer has two completely different categories of vegetables. The ones that look like summer crops, but were actually built for spring, and the ones that were genuinely built for heat, that run harder the hotter it gets, that produce more food in August than they did in June. This list is the second category, 10 vegetables that do not just survive summer, they need it. Number 6 on this list keeps producing on days when the thermometer hits 95 degrees and everything else in your garden has already slowed down. And number 10, I'll tell you now, it's not exotic, but there is a specific moment the first time you harvested that makes people understand why gardeners keep coming back to it every single year. Stay for that one. Let's get into it.
Number 1. Tomatillos. Most people in the United States have eaten tomatillos. In salsa verde, in enchiladas, in guacamole, they know the flavor, but almost no one has grown them. And that is a genuine missed opportunity because tomatillo plants are one of the most effortlessly productive things you can put in a summer garden. Tomatillos are native to Mexico and Central America, a region built on intense sun, dry heat, and long summers. The plant is completely at home in conditions that stress most other vegetables. Here's what makes tomatillos unusual to grow. Each fruit develops inside a paper-like husk, a natural wrapper that the plant builds around it. The husk starts green and tight. As the fruit ripens, the husk dries out, turns papery, and the fruit inside swells until it fills and slightly bursts through the casing. That's your signal. When the husk is dry and the fruit is pushing through, it's ready. Gardeners who grow tomatillos for the first time describe the harvest as oddly satisfying, like unwrapping something the plant packaged for you. 2 plants is all you need. Tomatillos require cross-pollination. One plant alone produces almost nothing. 2 plants together produce abundantly. 60 to 75 days from transplant to first harvest, and they keep producing through the heat of summer without slowing down. If you have ever made salsa verde from a jar and then made it fresh from tomatillos you grew yourself, you will never go back to the jar.
Number 2. Black-eyed peas. If you want to understand how tough black-eyed peas are, consider where they come from. West Africa, a region defined by drought, sandy soil, relentless heat, and conditions that would shut down most vegetables within a week. Black-eyed peas did not just survive those conditions, they were cultivated and relied upon in them for thousands of years. Bring that plant to an American summer garden, give it full sun, average soil, minimal water, and it treats those conditions as normal. It produces pods through August heat that has already shut down other crops. It fixes nitrogen into the soil as it grows, actively improving your garden bed while it feeds you. And its dense growth crowds out most weeds on its own. 50 to 60 days from seed to harvest. And here is the part most people do not know. Black-eyed peas are almost never sold fresh in grocery stores. They go from farm to can to shelf. Fresh black-eyed peas, shelled from the pod and cooked the same day, have a creamy, earthy richness that the canned version simply cannot replicate. It is one of those vegetables where growing your own is the only way to taste what it actually is. If your summers get genuinely hot, and that covers most of the country outside the Pacific Northwest, black-eyed peas will grow for you. And this summer is the right time to find out.
Number 3. Peppers. Peppers are native to Central America. They evolved in heat, in sun, and conditions that would wilt most of what is in your garden. When summer temperatures settle into the 80s, pepper plants shift into their productive stride. Flowers appear, then fruit, then more flowers. But here is the one counterintuitive move that most beginner pepper growers never make, and it is the difference between a decent harvest and a genuinely impressive one. Pick your peppers before they fully ripen. A green bell pepper left on the plant will eventually turn red and taste sweeter. That part is true. But while it is sitting there slowly turning red, the plant is not making new peppers. It thinks its job is done. Pick it green. The plant immediately sets new flowers. Do that consistently through the summer and you will harvest enough peppers to make fresh salsa every week and still have more than you can use. Wait for full color on every single one and you get a fraction of that. Same plant, same summer. The only difference is when you decide to pick.
Number 4. Cucumbers. The reason so many gardeners give up on cucumbers after one season comes down to a single mistake made at planting time. They put the vines on the ground. Cucumber vines sprawled across soil sit in stagnant air. Moisture builds on the leaves. Powdery mildew, the white dusty disease that kills most ground-grown cucumber plants by August, finds exactly the conditions it needs to spread. Fruit hides underneath the vines and turns yellow and bitter before it is ever found. That experience is where the reputation for cucumbers being difficult comes from, and it is almost entirely avoidable. Give the vines something to climb: a wire fence panel, bamboo poles tied at the top, a basic trellis leaning against a wall, anything that takes the vines off the ground and upward. Air moves freely around every leaf. The disease has nowhere to establish. Every cucumber hangs in open space, visible, easy to spot, picked at the right size before bitterness ever develops. Most cucumber varieties that struggle on the ground thrive on a trellis because the real enemy is not the variety, it is the airflow. Ground-grown cucumbers slow down July. The same plant on a trellis stays productive through September. One decision, made before planting, everything else follows from it.
Number 5. Zucchini. There comes a moment in every zucchini grower's summer when they realize they have made a miscalculation. It usually happens in late July. Things seemed manageable for a few weeks, and then one morning you walk outside and the plant has seemingly doubled overnight. 6 zucchinis ready to pick, 3 more forming behind them, leaves the size of dinner plates spreading in every direction. You start leaving bags at neighbors' doors. You bring zucchini to work. You put it in every meal, and the plant keeps producing anyway. This is what one healthy zucchini plant actually does in a warm summer. For a first-time gardener who has never been sure if they have a green thumb, zucchini removes all doubt. It grows in average soil, needs no special care, and produces more food than most families can keep up with from a single plant you can find at any nursery. The one rule that keeps it productive all season: harvest at 6 to 8 inches. Let it go past that and the plant shifts its energy toward that one oversized fruit instead of making new ones. Pick it small. Pick it every 2 days. One plant, July through September, fed.
Number 6. Okra. Here is what happens to most vegetable gardens when a genuine heat wave arrives and it stays above 90 degrees for 2 weeks straight. Tomatoes drop their blossoms. Cucumbers slow down and turn bitter. Beans wilt in the afternoon. And somewhere in the corner of the garden, completely unbothered, one plant is flowering, producing, growing faster than it did during the cooler weeks of June. That is okra. Native to Africa, okra is one of the best vegetables to grow in hot and humid weather and one of the most extreme heat-tolerant crops that exists. It was shaped by conditions that would destroy most of what is in your garden. Pods appear 50 to 60 days after planting and keep coming steadily all summer long, enough to cook with every single week through the worst heat of the season. One tip before you plant: soak the seeds overnight in water. Okra seeds have a thick outer shell. That single overnight soak softens it and cuts germination time nearly in half. If your summers get brutally hot, and that covers most of the American South, Southeast, and anywhere that sees weeks above 90 degrees, okra is the plant that keeps your garden producing when nothing else will.
Number 7. Eggplant. Eggplant has a reputation problem. Most people who say they don't like it had it from a grocery store version that was already 4 or 5 days past its best. Here is what actually happens after an eggplant is picked. The flesh begins to oxidize, natural sugars break down, a bitterness develops, slowly at first, then noticeably, that simply was not there on the day it came off the plant. By the time a grocery store eggplant reaches your kitchen, you are tasting eggplant at the tail end of its shelf life, not at its best. Homegrown eggplant eaten within hours of picking is creamy, mild, almost buttery, with none of that bitterness most people associate with a vegetable they didn't enjoy. It is a genuinely different ingredient. Eggplants thrive between 70 and 90 degrees and really accelerate once nighttime lows stay consistently above 60, exactly what summer delivers. Buy a transplant rather than starting from seed. Give it full sun and consistent water. And for harvest timing, pick when the skin is deeply colored, glossy, and springs back slightly when pressed with a finger. That firm, glossy skin means the flesh inside is at peak freshness. Leave it past that point, and the oxidation you are trying to avoid has already begun. That one harvest cue, glossy skin, slight springiness, is the difference between the eggplant you remember and the one that changes your mind about it.
Number 8. Green beans. Green beans teach you something that most other vegetables don't: how to wait. For weeks after planting, the vines are filling out quietly, leaves spreading, stems climbing, but the pods are not ready. You check, and nothing is there yet. Then one morning, without warning, the plant is covered. Not a few beans scattered across the vines, the whole plant, loaded all at once, a full colander picked in under 20 minutes from seeds you pushed into warm soil 7 weeks ago. It never stops feeling good, no matter how many seasons you have grown them. Bush beans mature in 50 to 55 days from direct sowing, no transplanting needed. 1 inch into warm summer soil, water it, walk away. The one tip that quietly increases your harvest: plant in a block, 4 short rows side by side, not a single long row. Bees pollinate each pod by moving between flowers. In a tight block, a bee moves a few inches between plants and visits every flower. In a single row, it works one end and flies off. The block gets more visits. More visits means more pods. That shape change, nothing else different, is the entire tip.
Number 9. Sweet potatoes. Most vegetables are demanding. Constant harvesting, regular checks, something always needs attention. Sweet potatoes make a different kind of deal. Plant the slips, the starter plants, in early summer when the soil is consistently warm. Water regularly for the first few weeks while the roots establish, and then mostly leave them alone. The vines spread wide across the soil surface, creating a dense, living carpet that blocks sunlight from reaching the ground. That coverage means weeds cannot germinate underneath. While the tubers are building underground, the vines are eliminating your weeding problem above. 2 jobs, 1 plant. 90 to 120 days later, when fall arrives, you reach into the soil, pull back the vines, and begin lifting tubers out of the ground. Each one heavy, smooth, fully formed, in quantities that genuinely surprise most first-time growers. Look for Beauregard or Covington slips at your local nursery. Both are widely available, reliable, and productive across most growing regions in the United States. If you want a summer crop that earns its space while demanding the least from you, this is it.
Number 10. Corn. Before the technique, let me tell you why corn is worth growing at all. Because the reason is not practical. It is not about yield or cost or ease. It is about a moment. It is late August. The ears have been filling out for weeks. You go out one evening and find one that is ready. Dark brown silk at the tip, tight husk, the feel of full kernels through the wrapper. You pull it. You walk inside, put water on to boil, shuck the ear over the sink. The smell that comes up from a freshly shucked ear of corn, raw, sweet, faintly milky, is unlike anything that has ever come out of a grocery bag. You drop it in, 4 minutes, butter, salt, And if you have never eaten corn within minutes of picking, corn that never sat on a truck, never spent days in a store, never had its sugars slowly converting to starch the way they begin doing from the moment of harvest, that first bite lands differently. It does not taste like corn you have eaten before. It tastes like what corn actually is. That moment, in your own kitchen, from an ear you grew yourself, is why people plant corn in backyards that barely have room for it. Now the technique, and there is only one thing that matters. Plant in a block, 4 rows by 4 rows minimum. Corn is wind-pollinated. Pollen must fall from the tassels down onto the silks of every ear below. In a single row, pollen blows sideways and disappears. In a block, it falls everywhere, and every ear fills out completely. That is the only rule. Everything else is just waiting for that August evening.
10 vegetables, all of them built for summer heat, all of them producing food that tastes nothing like what comes from a store. If you're not sure where to start, pick one, just one. The garden does not need to be perfect to feed you. Which one is it? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Full guide, varieties, spacing, watering schedules is linked in the description. Subscribe for what comes next.